right. I don't know if you guys see me yet or not, because I don't know if there are any commercials going on. Two things I hate the most about StreamYard is it doesn't tell you how many people are on at any given time until you start, and then it also doesn't tell you if there are commercials going on. So, all right, hey, how's it going, everybody? Tangent Trails, be careful what you wish for on that cold mountain stuff, because that will play heavily here in this evening's little thing. Thanks for tuning in. Small crowd, but that's okay. I kind of sprung this on everybody, including myself. It was not really well planned out, but I thought it would be an interesting experiment to try out something new and talk a little bit about this trip I went on, which is going to be a lesson on how to stay fluid as things change. So, yes, outside comfort zone. The heat down there is bonkers. My dad, who lives down there, is not there currently, but he said they're already in 100 degrees and stuff. So, but yeah. So anyways, like I said, I would have thought I'll talk a little bit about what we did, what we hoped to do, and what we ended up doing. And a better prepared, more well organized presenter would have lots of nice visuals, but I do not, because I have a mobile device and StreamYard won't let me pull up visuals. So unless I were to try to show you off of your phone in a haphazard attempt, we're just going to skip that part and talk a little bit about things. So hopefully I can create a visual representation of what was going on. Where does my dad live? My dad lives just outside of Denison. Yeah, Denison. I don't know. Dallas area. That's terrible. I can't even remember. I'll look it up and let you know later. They're in Ohio right now, anyways, so it doesn't matter. So anyways, we set out Denton. Thank you so much, Tangent Trails. My goodness, my brain doesn't work half the time. So yes, they live outside of Denton. Hot Pants and I set out this weekend on a 3-day trip, or a 3-night, 4-day trip, which was the intention. And we set out to an area off the Boulder River, which is kind of in between Billings and Bozeman. Thank you. Brain worked much tonight. So yeah, it kind of runs in there, and it's just north of the Beartooth. It's actually in the Absaroka Range. So it's not just called the Absaroka-Beartooth Wilderness. There are actually two mountain ranges that are kind of divided by the Stillwater River, which is just to the southeast of the Bridger River. So it's basically one valley over. And so we were just on the inside of the Absaroka Range. And so we headed up to an area which is known as the Lake Plateau. It's called the Lake Plateau because, unlike the Beartooth Range, the Absaroka Range doesn't have a lot of lakes except in this one little area that we were intending on going. So I think it's pretty close to Dutton's Ranch. Is that a Yellowstone reference? We don't talk about that show here. We don't. No Yellowstone. So anyways, yeah. So we headed up, and the plateau sits at about 9,600 feet. And we started out about 2,500 feet below that. And it was pretty chilly day. I think we started out at 60-degree weather, and it was overcast. It was warm enough for us to sweat our asses off while we were hiking up the side of the switchbacks, but cold enough that the moment you stopped, you just basically were frozen. And that wasn't a major issue. Actually, that was rather nice. So the trail starts out with some pretty wide switchbacks at the very base, and the switchbacks kind of bounce between the far end, and then its natural border is right on the seat of where the upside down creek joins with the boulder drainage. So we were taking the upside down creek trail, and interestingly enough, you'll see in the video. Incidentally, if anybody doesn't want any spoilers for the actual video whenever I decide to get it finished, go ahead and turn off now, because there will be some spoilers here. But we headed up the upside down creek, and it's very interesting because if you didn't think that the Forest Service had much of a sense of humor, all of the signs for upside down creek trail are actually mounted upside down. Yeah, so it is quite entertaining that it is put that way. Connor didn't realize that when we started out, and he thought that there was something wrong, but that is actually how they mount both of the initial trail markers for that. So you go through a series of really long switchbacks, which kind of bounce you in between some deciduous forests and some really beautiful meadows. And man, even though it was overcast on the day up, the wildflowers are completely in bloom, and it was just gorgeous. I mean, yellows, blues, purples, all that kind of stuff all over the place, except for the fact I can't see purples because I'm red-green colorblind. Hey, Salmon, how's it going? So we made our way up to those switchbacks, and it was a pretty arduous climb. We were doing pretty good and making pretty good time. And then eventually, as it goes up, we finished out the switchbacks. It got really narrow, that kind of really annoying, like zigzag type pattern that everybody hates. So I got some interesting time-lapse videos for that. Sorry, my throat's getting dry there. And then we headed back into the valley a little bit more. And when we started hitting the second set of switchbacks at around 8,000 feet, we started to encounter our first sights of snow. We expected to be some snow. We did expect it to be a little bit higher, just because we didn't get a ton of snow this year, and we've had some unseasonably warm weather up recently. And it's not uncommon this time of year for the trails to start to open up at this time. It's also not uncommon for them not to open up at this time. It just kind of depends on what the mountains decide to do and what area you're in. And but we did start to encounter snow at about 8,000 feet. And I did notice one area that seemed like it would be a decent campsite, and kind of made note of that. But yes, you are correct. Most places in the East do not know what switchbacks are. Switchbacks are a necessary evil around here. When I first came out here, I hated switchbacks. I have come to appreciate them more, especially as my knees get older, and that pitch stays a little bit lower, more manageable. Although it is infuriating to walk like 3 miles to go 1 mile, but that's another point. And so as we continued on, we started to encounter a whole lot more snow, to the point where we started to kind of collectively wonder if maybe this was a bad magazine article being written. And this wasn't like really good consolidated snow that you might be able to even snowshoe over. It was pretty mushy, wet, and post-holy. And we had gotten a late start during the day because Connor had to do some work during the day. So unfortunately, we definitely got a little bit behind on that. And so we were starting to get later in the evening. Hey, Kevin, how's it going? And so as we progressed, we hit about 9,200 feet before we finally encountered enough snow that we were having difficulty making the route of the trail, and became concerned that the likelihood of us finding a decent place to camp. Yes, mashed potatoes would be a great way to describe that. It was exactly what it was. Mashed potatoes with little bits of ice in it. So we decided that collectively it wasn't going to be a really good idea to continue on. We were pushing 7:30. We hadn't had dinner yet. We didn't set up a camp. Like I mentioned, that I made note of that campsite that we had passed, which wasn't an ideal campsite, but it would definitely work, and it did, because we made the decision to go ahead and turn around, and we headed back down. And of course, that took a lot less time to make it our way down there. And so we set up camp, and man, it was really good that we did, because by the time we got to that point, I was really hungry, and um, you know, it was definitely getting time to eat food. Kevin, great question. What gear do you wish you would have brought, knowing what you know now? And admittedly, I don't know that any gear would have mattered much at that point. In theory, we could have used snowshoes. However, the consistency of the snow at that time was not conducive to use snowshoes. So I feel like we would have still been running into the post holing issue. And then also, trying to set up a camp on that kind of, just like Doc Watson said, mashed potato snow, it can be infuriating. I don't know. I'm sure other people would argue this. For us, I don't think it was necessarily a gear issue that we made that decision. It was more just, rewards versus um, rewards versus risk kind of thing. Skis with skins, not a chance. It was still pretty sporadic. You would have spent more time putting the skis on and off than you would actually making any kind of forward progress. So again, it's like islands of snow initially, and then of course eventually it becomes complete. And additionally, what we'd set out for doing for the weekend, probably it wouldn't have I don't know, been conducive to what we were looking for on that trip. Definitely other trips that I have done where I've skied in or horseshoed in, and it definitely is type 2 fun. But this particular trip, it just didn't seem to be clicking enough for us to be able to even kind of consider that. So for us, we just went ahead and headed back down, and had some dinner. And it still ended up being a lot of fun. I mean, a lot of times we look at turning around and having to go back down as some sort of a failure, or that we didn't try hard enough, and I don't feel like that was the case at all. It just wasn't happening. We weren't making that kind of good forward momentum. We were hungry, we were getting tired, and so for us it just made a lot more sense to go ahead and turn around. So we did. Not an easy decision, but it was the best one we made at the time. And so we did go back down, camped overnight, right next to a creek, and it ended up working out just fine. It was actually a really nice campsite. We were a little exhausted, got some food in us, felt great afterwards. And the next morning, we decided that we were going to do something a little bit different. We hadn't come up with a plan yet, but we were going to head down back to the trailhead, try to make up an idea. And so we did. We got down to the truck, and we made the decision to drive to the Red Lodge area, to try to go on a trail that we were more familiar with, because the other part I think I failed to mention was neither of us have done this particular trail. I think it would be one thing if we had some experience with it, but we didn't. So it was kind of a new thing. And we knew going into it that it was early in the season, and that was a possibility. Tangent trails, not surprising given the amount of snow the Rockies received here. Yes, if you were in California or Colorado, or any of those other lower states, we actually got just under what would be our normal average. I think some of the snowtel sites made it up to about 180% snowpack, but it was a relatively calm snow year for us. And absolutely, Doc Watson, I'm going to get into that because this definitely becomes an adventure, as there are a few more twists and turns of this little, we started calling it the Odd Odyssey. Snow snowing. I think we actually got a little bit of snow over the weekend, not a ton. But yeah, I can imagine it's definitely still snowing in Colorado. So we jumped in the car, we drove down to the Red Lodge area. And by the time we got in there, it was a little bit late. We could have very easily made it into an area if we really wanted to, because we're at the point now where the sunset's not happening until after 9. But as we were heading back onto the trailhead, we found a really nice dispersed camping site, and we just decided we were just going to stay there that night. And it was beautiful. It was a great campsite. Worked out really well, and we definitely had a great night for the second night. And then the next morning, we decided to head down to hit the West Fork Trail to hike back to and hopefully camp at a place called Quinneball Meadows, which is an absolutely gorgeous place. If you watch some of my previous videos, it shows up in a couple of them. It's one of my favorite trails. It's part of my absolute favorite trail, which is known as the Sundance Pass, which I'll be doing again next month, actually. So this was a good practice run, I guess. We set out, and it was nice and sunny in the valley where we started out. And I would say it was probably again in the upper 60s, lower 70s, maybe. Very, very comfortable. And when we hiked up to a point, and the trail kind of goes up gradually, very gradually, and then it hits this one area where it's like you literally come around a corner, and you're just kind of looking out across the almost to the meadow itself, and then you end up going down a little bit. And both of us remarked that as we came around that corner, we just got bashed in the face by this cold, just ice cold air, like really heavy winds. Montana is known for its winds, but so it's not abnormal, but these were pretty strong winds. Absolutely, Kevin. It was beautiful weather up until that point. And so we quickly descended down, hoping that, the meadow might be a little bit more protected. And so we got down into it and got into there, and we got to see Whitetail Peak, and it was completely shrouded in just clouds and mists, and it was really beautiful. But man, it was cold. And that wind was just cutting right through us. And so we ducked into a bundle of trees, and we decided to have lunch and threw on the puffies. I mean, I had both my mid layer and my puffy on, and was still a little bit on the chilly side. And my thermometer on my pack was measuring 48 degrees. So in a span of 6 miles, we went from 70s to 40s, which is, again, not abnormal for that particular area. We were going to camp there, and I was committed to doing that. I think we could have camped there and not had any issues. I've definitely camped in a lot worse situations. But as we ate lunch and we're just kind of sitting there chatting, and I was filming a time lapse, Hot Pants made the comment about having a proposition about going back down into town and getting some beer and hot food. And I think at that point, we both just collectively realized that any interest we had in the further trip had kind of dissipated. My good buddy Devin from Backcountry Exposure, he did a video about a trip that he went on that it just wasn't clicking anymore, and he just decided that it was better to end it a little bit short than to try to continue on and do something that's not fun. And the fun factor, even if it's type 2 fun, it's still, there has to be kind of an interest there. And I think at that point, collectively, we had gone through enough with this particular trip, enough ups and downs, that we were like, I'm not feeling it. Let's go ahead and turn around. So we did. We turned around, we hiked back down to the trailhead, which, of course, by the time we got to the trailhead, it was back to being mostly sunny and beautiful out. And so you're automatically like questioning yourself. But, again, by this point, beer and hot food were definitely taking over. And I completely agree. Love dogs. It's always a success, and it's always part of the recipe. So yeah, we went ahead and went back into Red Lodge and changed into our post-trip clothes, so we didn't scare away the locals. And we got some great Mexican food and a couple beers and some margaritas, and all worked out well in the end. So definitely not the way we anticipated, but that's part of the game. If you try to go into the mountains early in the season, you have to be able to really roll with those punches. And so I think we did, and I think we did a really good job of it. We didn't put ourselves into any kind of unnecessary perils. Um, we would have definitely been able to make it work had we needed to, but we didn't need to, and so we chose not to. So yeah, that is our little odd odyssey. Again, it was all good. We had a lot of fun, no regrets. We collectively made the decisions. It wasn't like one person was just being pissy and not wanting to go. We were both kind of in that same thing and just wasn't working out. So any questions or anything? I don't know how I did on that. Like I said, this is a new thing I'm just kind of trying out. So I don't know if it's been good or not. So I definitely have had fun in the rain. I've definitely not had fun in the rain, for sure. So, all right. Man. I am not good at this. Sorry, guys. Yeah, thanks for sharing this in the process and the thing behind it. Yeah, absolutely. Like I say, I don't know that it's right for everybody in every trip, but for this particular trip, the decisions we made, I think, we're spot on. We still had a great time. We definitely got away from the city for a while. We definitely got to experience a lot of fun. And, I think in the end, if you have that opportunity, absolutely. Tangent Trails, if you got off the couch, we definitely got off the couch, although I'm generally pretty active. I don't sit on the couch very often, but it was definitely great to be able to get out. So definitely had fun with that. Any other questions or comments, criticisms, funny jokes? All right, seeing nothing really much at the moment. So what do you guys think? Was this worth it? Not so much? Try again another time? Who knows? What should I do? The the infamous Red Lodge pig races. I don't think they were happening when we were there. I don't think they've started up for the season yet. They didn't run them for a couple seasons, and I don't know if they are doing them again or not. So I haven't heard. That's something to check into, but I do believe. Yeah, I don't know about the pig races. The pig races may be a thing of the past. Thanks, Doc. I appreciate it. Like I said, I'm just playing around with some new formats and trying to see what sticks. Not everything is great, but it was a lot of fun. So at least trying. Pig racists? I don't. Sorry, I wouldn't. Uh, you know, haven't had. I'm drinking chamomile tea, so I haven't had enough coffee for that one. Thanks, Love Dog. I appreciate the compliment or the confidence there. Like I say, maybe next time it'll be a little bit more concise and I'll be a little bit better prepared. It was just thought that I had this morning, and I didn't know if I was going to be able to do it tomorrow because of work and stuff. So, yeah. Pumped for the video. Great to hear it, Tangent Trails. I'm hoping to get it out here soon. I was editing it this morning. Admittedly, I hit a wall with the creativeness, and some people are really good at pushing through those. For me, I don't like doing it because then I feel like the video it reflects that, and it's more forced. So I'm a little bit more fluid in my production, but hopefully, fingers crossed, the first video will be out this weekend. I haven't decided if I'm doing 1, 2, or 3 videos. It depends on how long they end up being. So we'll see. People who hate bacon before they've tasted it. I got nothing there for you, man. Sorry. I'm sure I will get scolded by you later for not getting your jokes, but just yeah, not happening. All right, guys. Well, thanks again. Hopefully, get that video here soon. And I appreciate you guys joining me in this little experiment and being kind as always. It's funny. Every time I get ready to start one of these, I always convince myself that nobody's going to show up and that I'm just going to be sitting there staring into the void. But you guys always come out and always support it, and I definitely appreciate it. So I hope you have a great night. Whatever you're up to, hopefully it's planning a trip or getting ready for a trip or something like that. And if not, hopefully that will be happening soon as well. So Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.